My name is Millie Randall, and I'm 31 years old. When I was 8, my mother dropped me off at a boarding school in Connecticut and told me she'd be back for Parents' Weekend. She never came. Not that weekend. Not that year. Not once in 10 years. I ate Thanksgiving dinner in cafeterias. I watched every other girl run into her mother's arms on graduation day. I stood alone. I built my life from nothing, put myself through college, became a paralegal, learned how to find things people didn't want found. 3 months ago, my mother called for the first time in 23 years. She said she needed $3,000 for rent or she'd be homeless. I said one name, just one. The line went dead silent for 40 seconds. She should have stayed gone, because the name I said wasn't a question. It was a receipt. I need to take you back to the beginning, not because I want to relive it, because you need to understand what she built and what I tore down. September 2003. I was 8 years old. My mother pulled into the parking lot of Briarfield Academy in a rented sedan. She was wearing a blouse I'd never seen before and carrying a handbag that looked new, the kind with brass clasps. I remember the handbag because I'd never seen her carry anything that nice. We lived in a one-bedroom in Toledo. She worked at a nail salon 3 days a week. Or that's what she told me. She walked me to the front door. I had a backpack, the purple one with the broken zipper, and a rolling suitcase that bumped over the stone path. She didn't carry it for me. At the door, she crouched down. She smelled like hairspray and a perfume I didn't recognize. "This is going to be so good for you," she said. Her voice was steady, too steady, like she was reading a line she'd practiced. I asked the only question that mattered to me. "You'll come for Parents' Weekend, right?" She smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Of course I will." She stood up, smoothed her blouse, and walked back to the car. I watched her through the glass door. She didn't look back. She didn't wave. The engine started. The taillights disappeared around the oak-lined drive. I didn't know it then, but that was the last time I'd see her for 23 years. And the handbag, the one that looked so new, so out of place, I'd understand it later. I'd understand everything later. That first night at Briarfield, I lay in a twin bed in a room with a girl named Charlotte who didn't talk to me. The sheets were stiff. The pillow smelled like bleach. Through the window I could see the parking lot. Empty now. Orange under the sodium lights. I kept my shoes on because I thought my mother might come back. I thought she might realize she'd made a mistake, turn the car around and pull back into that parking lot. I'd see the headlights. I'd hear the engine. I'd grab my backpack and my suitcase, and we'd go home. I fell asleep with my shoes on. When I woke up, it was morning. The parking lot was still empty. I took my shoes off after that. Not because I stopped hoping, because my feet hurt. Parents' Weekend came 6 weeks later. I woke up early. Packed my backpack the night before. A drawing I'd made, a report card, a friendship bracelet I'd knotted from embroidery thread. I sat in the lobby from 8 in the morning. Through the glass, I could see the parking lot fill up. Minivans, SUVs, a few sedans, fathers in khakis and mothers in fall sweaters, carrying bags of snacks and blankets for the football game. By noon, every other girl had someone. I was still sitting in the lobby chair, backpack on my lap, friendship bracelet in my fist. The hall monitor, Ms. Patterson, a woman with a gray braid and soft eyes, found me at 2 o'clock. "Sweetie," she said, and her voice was careful. "You can go back to your room now." I nodded. I didn't cry. I folded the friendship bracelet into my backpack pocket, carried my things upstairs, and ate dinner alone in the cafeteria. Chicken fingers and applesauce. I remember the applesauce because I stared at it for 10 minutes before I picked up the spoon. I told myself she'd come next time. And the time after that? And the time after that? She didn't. 10 years is a long time to wait for someone who isn't coming. Long enough to stop hoping and start constructing a version of yourself that doesn't need to. Every Thanksgiving, I sat in the Briarfield cafeteria with the other girls who didn't go home. There were usually 4 or 5 of us. We didn't talk about why. We just ate turkey from foil trays and watched a movie the dorm parent picked out. Every Christmas, I stayed in my room. Packages came from the school's holiday donation program. A scarf, a paperback, a gift card to a bookstore in town. Once, when I was 12, a birthday card arrived in the mail. No return address. Just my mother's handwriting. "Happy birthday, sweetheart. Mama loves you always." No phone number, no address, no way to write back. I kept that card under my pillow for a year. I read it every night. It was the only proof I had that she existed, that she remembered me. I know now what that card actually was. It wasn't love. It was maintenance. She sent just enough so I wouldn't ask questions. Just enough so I wouldn't start looking. When I was 14, I tried to call her. I'd memorized the number from the emergency contact form she'd filled out when she enrolled me. A recording played. "This number is no longer in service." She'd changed her number. She hadn't told me the new one. That was the year I stopped saying, "When Mom comes." I started saying, "When I leave." I stopped waiting for someone to arrive and started planning to build something of my own. But there was one more thing from those years. I didn't understand it until much later. When I was 16, I was helping the school registrar organize student files for an accreditation review. Alphabetical. Routine. I pulled my own folder, the kind of thing any teenager would do, flipping through to see what the adults wrote about you. Most of it was ordinary. Transcripts, health forms, emergency contact cards with my mother's disconnected number. But clipped to the inside cover was a letter on legal letterhead. Heavy cream paper. The kind you don't send to a boarding school unless you mean business. It was addressed to the headmaster. The subject line read, Student Millie Randall, restriction on external contact. The letter instructed the school that no family member, guardian, or third party was permitted to contact me by visit, phone, or mail, without prior written authorization from the sender's office. The sender was an attorney. The name at the bottom was small type, and I didn't recognize it. I was 16. I assumed it was some kind of custody arrangement. Maybe protective services had been involved at some point. Maybe my mother had enemies. I didn't know. I put the file back. I didn't think about it again for 12 years. But that attorney's name was Scott Kellerman, and the family members being blocked from contacting me weren't threats. They were the Whitfields. Gerald didn't just pay to send me away. He hired a lawyer to make sure no one on his side of the family could find me or change their mind. The boarding school wasn't an opportunity. It was a vault. And the lock was on the outside. Graduation day, June 2013. I was 18. I stood in the line in my cap and gown. The auditorium was full. Every chair in the family section was taken. Mothers crying, fathers filming on their phones, little brothers squirming. The noise was huge. Laughter, applause. Someone's grandmother calling out a name. When they called my name, I walked across the stage. I shook the headmaster's hand. I looked out at the audience. I scanned for a face I hadn't seen in 10 years. No one was there for me. After the ceremony, everyone spilled onto the lawn. Girls threw their caps. Mothers hugged them. Fathers lifted little siblings onto their shoulders. I stood by the oak tree near the parking lot with my diploma in my hand and my phone in my pocket. It buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "I'm so proud of you, Millie. Love, Mom." No call, no face, no arms. Just a text from a stranger's number. I stared at it for a long time. Then I put my phone in my pocket, walked to the edge of campus, and called a taxi. That was the day I stopped wondering why she left. I started asking a different question. How? How did an 8-year-old's boarding school tuition get paid for 10 years? My mother worked at a nail salon. She lived in a one-bedroom apartment. She drove a sedan that shook on the highway. How did she afford this? But I buried the question. I buried it deep. I was 18. I was alone. I had a diploma and no address to go home to. I had bigger things to worry about than where the money came from. At least, that's what I told myself. I spent that summer sleeping on a friend's couch in New Haven. She was a girl I'd known at Briarfield, one of the other Thanksgiving cafeteria kids. She didn't ask questions. I got a job bussing tables at a diner on Whitney Avenue and saved every dollar I could. By August, I had enough for a deposit on a room in a shared apartment near the community college. I didn't talk about my mother. When people asked about my family, I said, "It's just me." After a while, they stopped asking. People in Connecticut don't push. They give you space. Sometimes, too much of it. I worked my way through community college waiting tables, transferred to UConn, finished a paralegal certificate at 23. I got hired at Callaway and Marsh, a small firm in Hartford that handled wills, estates, and property disputes. The pay wasn't much, but I was good at the work. I was very good at finding things in documents that people assumed no one would look at. When I was 20, I did something I'm not proud of. Or maybe I am. I took $600 I'd saved from tips and hired a private investigator. His name doesn't matter. What matters is what he found. He found my mother. She was living in Columbus, Ohio. She had an apartment, not fancy, but not bad. One bedroom, street level, near a bus line. She drove a Hyundai Santa Fe. Not new, but not old either. Cable TV, full fridge when he checked through the window. She worked part-time at a dry cleaner. He called me from a diner in Columbus. "I found her," he said. "But she doesn't want to see you." I told her your name. She said no. I was sitting on the edge of my dorm bed. The room was the size of a closet. I had $42 in my checking account and an overdue electricity bill on my desk. She said no? She said she's not ready. He paused. "Look, I don't want to overstep, but she didn't seem like a woman who doesn't have money. She's not rich. But something doesn't add up. I couldn't find a full-time job. The dry cleaner's part-time, but she's living fine." I wrote his words down on a napkin. I still have it. Doesn't seem like someone who doesn't have money, no full-time job, living fine. I folded the napkin and put it in my wallet. I carried it for 8 years. Through college, through the paralegal program, through every apartment I moved into, and every Thanksgiving I spent with a frozen dinner from Trader Joe's. That napkin was the closest thing I had to evidence. I didn't know what it was evidence of, but I kept it. She was living fine, without a real job. Without me. And she said no. I paid the investigator the remaining $200. I put his report in a manila folder, put the folder in a box, put the box under my bed. I taped it shut with packing tape and wrote "closed" on the side in permanent marker. I told myself I was done. I told myself it didn't matter where the money came from. I told myself I was building something better than whatever she had, and I was building it alone, and that was enough. It wasn't enough. But I was 20. I didn't know what enough felt like yet. If you found out your mother wasn't struggling, that she just didn't want to see you, would you have kept looking? Or would you have done what I did and closed that file? 8 years passed. I graduated, got the paralegal job, built a small, clean life. My apartment in Hartford had white walls and no photographs on them because I didn't have anyone to photograph. I ate dinner alone most nights. I was good at that. I'd had practice. In January of this year, I was at work doing what I do, pulling vital records for a property dispute. The client needed a chain of title going back 3 decades, which meant I was elbow deep in county clerk filings, deed transfers, death certificates. It occurred to me, sitting at my desk in the glow of the county records portal, that I'd never seen my own original birth certificate. The one Briarfield had on file was a photocopy, the kind hospitals issue to new parents. I'd used my school records and a state ID to get through most of my life. But I'd never requested the original from the county. So I did. I filled out the form, paid the $12 fee, filed it like any other records request. It arrived 9 days later in a manila envelope. I opened it at my desk after everyone else had gone home. The overhead lights were off. Just my desk lamp. The certificate was standard. County seal, registrar stamp, my mother's name in block letters. Tammy Jean Randall. Date of birth. Hospital. Attending physician. Then I looked at the box labeled father. It didn't say unknown. It didn't say deceased. It didn't say anything printed. But under the light of my desk lamp, I could see it. Someone had used whiteout, the old kind, the thick kind, over the name. But whiteout doesn't last 31 years. Not on government paper. Under the lamp, with the document tilted at an angle, I could read the indentations from the original pen strokes. Gerald R. Whitfield. I set the certificate down. My hands were flat on the desk. I didn't move for a long time. My father's name was Gerald R. Whitfield. Not dead, not unknown, erased. Someone had physically erased him from my birth certificate, and the only person who would have had access to the original before it was filed was the one who filled it out. My mother. I took a photograph, filed the certificate in a folder I labeled personal, and I opened my laptop. Gerald Raymond Whitfield. It took me 40 minutes to build his profile. LinkedIn. Senior partner, Whitfield and Crane Accounting, White Plains, New York. Professional headshot. Silver hair, navy suit, half smile. The kind of man who looked like he'd never missed a mortgage payment in his life. His wife's Facebook profile was public. Donna Whitfield. Cover photo. Family portrait. Gerald, Donna, and 3 children. Craig. Early 30s. Finance job in the city. Bridget. Late 20s. School teacher. Paige. Mid-20s. Still in graduate school. I scrolled through years of photos. Thanksgiving dinners. Christmas mornings. Bridget's college graduation. Gerald beaming in the front row. Craig's birthday at a steakhouse. Paige's dance recital when she was 10. A complete family. A beautiful family. I wasn't in any of the pictures. I wasn't in the captions. I wasn't mentioned in any comment, any post, any bio. I didn't exist in their world. Gerald Whitfield lived in Scarsdale, New York. That's a 2-hour drive from Briarfield Academy. 2 hours. I sat with that number. 120 minutes. The time it takes to watch a movie. The time it takes to drive from White Plains to Litchfield County on a Saturday morning. He could have come to Parents' Weekend. Any of them. All of them. He could have come to graduation. He could have sat in the back row where no one would have noticed him and watched his daughter walk across a stage. He didn't have to introduce himself. He didn't have to explain. He just had to be there. But he wasn't. Not once. Not in 10 years. And here's what I kept coming back to as I closed tab after tab of his family's photos. The Thanksgivings, the Christmases, the graduations. He knew how to be a father. He was doing it 3 times over. He just chose not to do it a 4th. I wasn't forgotten. I was excluded. There's a difference. Forgetting is passive. Excluding is a decision you make every morning when you wake up and choose not to drive 2 hours north. I was going to find him. I was going to call his office. I typed his name into the search bar one more time, looking for a direct phone number. The first result wasn't a phone number. It was an obituary. Gerald Raymond Whitfield, 62, of Scarsdale, New York, passed away on January 14th after a sudden cardiac event. He is survived by his wife, Donna, and his 3 children, Craig, Bridget, and Paige. I read the survived by line 4 times. 3 children. Not 4. 3. He'd died 3 months ago. January. My mother called me for the first time in 23 years in April. I sat back in my chair. The apartment was dark except for the laptop screen. January. April. 3 months. My father died in January. My mother called in April. She said she needed $3,000 for rent. I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, stood at the counter. My reflection was in the window. A woman in an old sweatshirt holding a glass, staring at herself in the dark. The investigator's napkin was in my wallet. I pulled it out. Doesn't seem like someone who doesn't have money, no full-time job, living fine. Gerald Whitfield died. 3 months later, Tammy Randall needed $3,000. Something had been paying Tammy's bills. Something that stopped when Gerald's heart did. I set the water down, went back to my laptop, and I did what I've been trained to do. I followed the paper. I didn't believe in coincidences before that night. After that night, I didn't believe in them at all. Here's what I did next. I'm a paralegal. This is what I do. Probate filings in New York are public record. I pulled Gerald Whitfield's estate case from the Westchester County Surrogates Court. It was filed by Donna Whitfield, executor. The estate included a house in Scarsdale valued at $1.2 million, investment accounts, a life insurance policy. Everything went to Donna and the 3 children. Everything. But in the filing, buried on page 11 of a 14-page inventory, there was a line item under recurring financial obligations. It read, monthly automatic transfer, Randall T., $1,800, standing order, Meridian National Bank. Active March 1st, 2003 through January 14th, 2026. I read it twice. Then I read it a third time. Randall T. Tammy Randall. My mother. $1,800 every month. From March 2003, the month my mother enrolled me at Briarfield, to January 2026, the month Gerald Whitfield died. I reached for the calculator on my desk. 23 years, 276 months, $1,800 each, $496,800. I set the calculator down. I looked at the number. Then I looked at the probate filing. Then I looked at my birth certificate in its folder. $500,000. That's what my silence had been worth. $1,800 a month for 23 years. Every month my mother didn't come to Parents' Weekend. Every Thanksgiving I ate turkey from a foil tray. Every Christmas I spent alone. Every graduation I attended with no one in the audience. Every birthday card with no return address. $1,800. She wasn't broke. She wasn't struggling. She was on payroll. So that's what I was worth. $1,800 a month. Now I knew the number. $496,800. That's what my silence cost. But here's what I didn't know yet. I wasn't the only one who'd been paying for it. If you think you know who else was in on this, keep listening. 3 days after I found the number, I called my mother back. I'd had the number from her April call, the Ohio area code she'd used when she asked for $3,000. She picked up on the second ring. Millie? Her voice was different this time. Careful. Like someone standing at the edge of a ledge. Hi, Mom. Baby, I'm glad you called. I know you're upset, but I need to explain. Gerald Whitfield, I said. Silence. Not the kind of silence where someone's thinking. Not the kind where someone's surprised. The kind where someone stops breathing. The kind where the air on the other end of the line goes absolutely still. 40 seconds. I counted. Then, very quietly, how did you find out? I'm a paralegal, Mom. I find things. Millie, you don't understand what happened. I was 23. He was older. He had money, he had power, he was married. He came to me. I didn't go to him. I waited. When I got pregnant, he panicked. His wife, she found out. She told him to fix it. And he did. He gave me money. He said if I took it, I had to keep you away from his family. Forever. And you agreed. I didn't have a choice. 1,800 a month, I said. For 23 years. That's $496,000. You didn't have a choice. She was crying now. Or making the sound of crying. I couldn't tell the difference anymore. I sent you to that school to protect you, Millie. You don't know what they're like. His wife, Donna, she would have destroyed you. She would have made your life. You sent me away so you could cash a check every month. That's not $1,800 every month. That's what my absence cost. I kept you safe. Protected me, I said. For $1,800 a month. I hung up. I sat at my kitchen table in my apartment in Hartford. Just me and the folder, the birth certificate, the probate filing, the calculator with the number still glowing on the screen. She'd had 23 years to call. She didn't. Gerald Whitfield died. The money stopped. And 3 months later, she picked up the phone. I wasn't her daughter. I was her income stream. And the stream had dried up. I want to tell you I made my next decision out of clarity, that it was clean and strategic. But the truth is I made it out of something uglier. I needed someone in that family to know I existed. Not for money. Not for revenge. I needed someone to look at me and see that I was real. I found Bridget Whitfield on Instagram, public profile. She was a social studies teacher at a middle school in Westchester. Her photos were classroom pictures, hikes, a golden retriever named Captain. She looked like someone who told the truth for a living. She also looked like me. Same jawline, same way of holding her chin slightly tilted in photos. I stared at her profile picture for a long time. I sent her a direct message. I kept it short. My name is Millie Randall. I have information about your father that I think you should know. I'm not asking for money or anything else. I just think you deserve the truth. 2 days passed. Then a reply. Who are you? I sent one attachment. My birth certificate. The whiteout. The name underneath. Another day passed. Then. Can we meet? We met at a coffee shop in White Plains. Neutral ground. I got there 20 minutes early and sat in the corner booth with a folder on the table and a cup of black coffee I didn't drink. Bridget came in at exactly 2 o'clock. She was wearing a gray sweater and jeans. Her hair was pulled back. She scanned the room and found me immediately. She stopped walking. I knew what she saw. The jawline. The way I held my hands. Flat on the table. Fingers spread. The way Gerald Whitfield held his in that LinkedIn photo. We looked alike. Not identical. But enough. She sat down across from me. She didn't say hello. She looked at the folder. Can I see it? I opened it. Birth certificate first. She studied the whiteout, tilted the paper under the light. She didn't speak. Then the bank statements. 23 years of transfers, $1,800 each. Her eyes moved down the columns, month after month after month. I never knew, she said. I nodded. She set the papers down. Then she said something that changed everything. There's an account, she said slowly. Dad had a separate checking account. Mom always called it his business account. She said it was for clients. I've been going through his papers, helping Mom with the estate. The withdrawals matched. $1,800 every month, like clockwork. She looked up at me. Mom knew. She had to have known. I didn't say anything. I let it sit. Don't talk to her yet, I said. Not until we have everything. She nodded. Then she looked at me. Really looked at me. The way you look at someone you're meeting for the first time but have known about your whole life without realizing it. I have a brother and a sister, she said. And now I have another one. I didn't correct her. I didn't say half. I just sat with it. The word sister from a stranger who shared my blood. It was the first time in my life someone had claimed me as family without an invoice attached. Bridget went home that night and did what she told me she would. She went into Gerald's home office, the one Donna had kept locked since the funeral. Bridget had a key because she was helping with the estate paperwork. She called me at 11 that night. Her voice was shaking. I found something. In the filing cabinet behind the tax returns and the corporate documents, there was a manila envelope sealed with tape. Handwritten on the front in Gerald's handwriting, "Personal, do not open." Inside, a photocopy of the voluntary relinquishment of parental rights. And a letter. Typed on the letterhead of Scott Kellerman, attorney at law, White Plains, New York. Dated March 1996. Addressed to Tammy Randall. Bridget read it to me over the phone. Her voice broke twice. Per our agreement, monthly payments in the amount of $1,800 will continue from the account of Gerald R. Whitfield to the account of Tammy J. Randall, contingent upon your compliance with the following terms. 1. No contact between the child and any member of the Whitfield family. 2. No disclosure of the child's parentage to any third party. 3. No legal claim of paternity, child support, or inheritance on behalf of the child. Compliance. Terms. Contingent. That was the language they used. Not daughter, not child we're responsible for. Compliance. Like a vendor agreement. Like a non-disclosure. There's something else, Bridget said. The letter says any member of the Whitfield family. Not just Dad. Any member. Someone else wanted you gone too. I knew who. But I needed to hear it in person. Before I went to Scarsdale, I went to White Plains, to the law office of Scott Kellerman. His office was on the 3rd floor of a brick building near the courthouse. Clean, expensive, quiet. He was in his late 50s, gray temples, wire-rimmed glasses, the measured calm of a man who'd spent his career keeping other people's secrets. He already knew who I was. I could see it in his face when I walked in. I'm not here for money, I said. I'm here for information. He folded his hands. I'm not at liberty to discuss client matters. I placed the birth certificate on his desk. He glanced at it. He didn't pick it up. I have the bank records, I said. 23 years of transfers. I have the letter. The one you wrote to my mother in 1996. I have the relinquishment filing. He didn't move. I just need to know one thing, I said. Did he know about me when he signed that paper? Kellerman looked at his desk for a long time. Then, he knew, and the relinquishment. Was it voluntary? Legally, yes. Legally. I let the word hang. What about actually? He shifted in his chair. He was under considerable family pressure. From Donna. He didn't answer, he didn't have to. There's a clause in the relinquishment, he said, changing direction. You should know. It means you have no legal standing as his child, no claim to the estate, no paternity rights. Voluntary relinquishment, I said. Or purchased relinquishment? He closed the folder. I think you should retain your own attorney, Ms. Randall. I stood up, picked up the birth certificate. I already have one. I walked out of that office into the White Plains sunlight. The courthouse was across the street. People walked past with briefcases and coffee cups, and faces that said they had somewhere to be. I stood on the sidewalk for a full minute. I'd come for answers. I'd gotten them. But not the ones I wanted. I wanted Kellerman to tell me the relinquishment was invalid, that Gerald was pressured, that there was a loophole. Instead, he'd told me the system had worked exactly as it was designed to. Paper filed. Payments made. Child erased. But he'd also given me something. Family pressure. 2 words. And a name he didn't say, but didn't deny. Donna. 3 days later, my mother called again. I almost didn't answer. But I'd learned something about Tammy Randall by now. She was most dangerous when she was quiet, and most revealing when she talked. So I picked up. Her voice was different this time. The trembling was gone. She sounded controlled. Almost clinical. Like someone who'd rehearsed. "I know you found things," she said. "I know you've been talking to people, but you need to hear my side." I said nothing. I was 23. He was 31. He was my boss's client. He came to the salon every week, charming, well-dressed, married. And I was young and stupid. When I got pregnant, his wife found out within a month. She didn't call him. She called me. She paused. "Donna Whitfield doesn't lose, Millie. She doesn't make scenes. She makes arrangements." She called me on a Tuesday afternoon and told me, very calmly, that if I didn't make the problem disappear, she would. She said she had attorneys. She said she had resources. She said she could make it so I'd never see you again. "So you took the money." "I took the money because the alternative was worse. She would have had you taken from me. She would have put you in the system. At least with the school, you were safe. You were educated. You were alone." Silence. "I was keeping you safe." "You were keeping yourself funded." "That's not fair." $1,800 a month is not fair. 10 years of empty cafeterias is not fair. One text message on graduation day is not fair. My voice was even. I wasn't yelling. "You had 23 years to find a way, to get a lawyer, to fight. You didn't. Because fighting would have stopped the checks." "Millie, don't call me again, unless you're ready to say it without the word protect." I hung up. My hands were steady. They weren't shaking because I was calm. They were steady because I'd already made my decision. 2 weeks later, Bridget called me. "Mom's having a family meeting about the estate," she said. "Saturday at 2. Craig and Paige will be there. She wants to go over the final distribution." "I want to be there." Bridget paused. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure. I'll tell Mom someone's coming who has information about Dad's finances. I won't say who." Saturday at 2. The Whitfield house in Scarsdale. The house where Gerald lived for 30 years. The house where Donna raised 3 children and kept one secret. I wore a navy blazer. I brought the folder. Inside it, the birth certificate, the bank statements, the letter from Kellerman. Originals were with my attorney. These were copies. But copies are enough when you're telling the truth. Bridget met me at the door. She didn't hug me. She squeezed my hand. "Ready?" I wasn't. But I nodded. I could hear voices inside, Craig's, clipped, professional, Paige's, soft, questioning. And underneath it all, Donna's, calm, measured, in control. The way she always was. The hallway was lined with framed photographs. Gerald in a tuxedo. The kids on a beach somewhere. Donna at a charity gala, holding a plaque. 30 years of a curated life, mounted on eggshell walls. Bridget walked ahead of me. I followed. My heels clicked on the hardwood. The folder was under my arm. I could feel the edges of the birth certificate through the paper. The living room was large and immaculate. White couches, a marble coffee table, family portraits on the wall. Gerald and Donna's wedding, the 3 kids at various ages, a Christmas photo from last year. No empty spaces, no missing faces, a complete story. Craig was sitting on the couch, dark hair, blue button down, arms crossed. He looked like his mother. Next to him was Paige, 24, quiet, watching. She looked like she was still trying to figure out why she'd been asked to come home from grad school on a Saturday. Donna sat in the armchair near the window. She was wearing a cream blouse and pearl earrings, Her hands were folded in her lap. She looked like a woman who had been in control of every room she'd ever entered. She looked up when I walked in, and I watched it happen. The recognition. Not of my name. Of my face. The jawline. The eyes. Gerald's eyes. She set her hands flat on the armrests. She didn't speak. Craig looked from Donna to me. "Who is this?" Bridget stepped forward. "This is Millie Randall. She's our half-sister." Craig stood up. "Excuse me?" Donna didn't stand. She didn't flinch. She sat perfectly still and looked at me the way you look at a bill you thought you'd already paid. "How much do you want?" she said. 4 words. That was it. No denial. No shock. No, that's impossible. Just, "How much do you want?" Like I was a contractor. Like I was a line item on a spreadsheet she thought she'd closed. She already knew. She'd always known. I set the folder on the marble coffee table. "I don't want your money," I said. "I want your family to hear the truth." Donna straightened in her chair. Her voice cut through the room. "This woman is lying. Your father would never have... This is absurd." She looked at Craig, then Paige. "She has no proof." I opened the folder. The birth certificate went on the table first. I turned it so everyone could see the whiteout, the name underneath. "This is my original birth certificate," I said. "Filed in Lucas County, Ohio. That's your father's name under the correction fluid. Gerald Raymond Whitfield." Donna leaned forward. "Anyone can forge a birth certificate. This proves nothing." Craig nodded. Paige didn't move. She was looking at the document. I placed the bank statements next to the birth certificate. 23 years of monthly transfers, each one highlighted in yellow. $1,800 a month, I said, from your father's personal checking account, the one your mother called his business account, to my mother, Tammy Randall. For 23 years. The transfers started in March 2003, the month I was enrolled at Briarfield Academy. They stopped on January 14th of this year, the day your father died. Craig picked up the statements. His eyes moved down the columns. He set them down. Bridget spoke. Her voice was quiet but steady. "I found the matching withdrawals, Mom. In Dad's account. The one you told us was for client expenses." She looked at Donna. "It wasn't for clients." Donna's eyes went to Bridget. Something crossed her face. Not anger. Betrayal. Her own daughter. Standing on the wrong side. I placed the last document on the table. The letter. Scott Kellerman's letterhead. I read it aloud. Every word. "Monthly payments will continue contingent upon your compliance with the terms, specifically, no contact between the child and any member of the Whitfield family." I set the letter down. He paid my mother to make me disappear, and someone in this family asked him to. I looked at Donna. The room went quiet. Donna stood up. Her voice rose for the first time. "I was protecting this family. Do you understand that? He had an affair. I was the one who stayed. I was the one who held everything together while he..." She stopped. Her mouth closed. She heard it. She hadn't denied it. She hadn't said, "I didn't know." She'd said, "I was protecting this family," in front of her 3 children. The room held its breath. Craig was standing by the couch, his hand on the armrest, knuckles white. Paige had one hand over her mouth. Bridget stood near the bookshelf, arms crossed, watching her mother the way you watch someone who's just shown you who they really are. Craig set the bank statements on the table. His voice was tight. "Mom, is this true?" Donna didn't answer him. She looked at the wall, at the portrait, Gerald's smile. Paige stood up from the couch. I waited until the silence settled, until there was nothing left in the room but the truth and the people it had just hit. Then I said it. "You stayed. And the price of your staying was a little girl in a boarding school who ate Thanksgiving dinner alone for 10 years. I let it sit. I didn't rush. I was 8. Pause. And every month you cashed the check that kept me gone. The words didn't echo. They landed. They landed on Donna's lap, and Craig's shoulders, and Paige's chest. They landed on the marble coffee table next to 23 years of bank statements. Paige walked over to me. She was crying. Not the performative kind, not the kind Tammy did on the phone. The real kind, the kind that comes from finding out the world was never what you thought. "I'm sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry." Craig didn't look at me. He walked out of the room. The front door opened. Closed. His car started in the driveway. Donna sat back down. She folded her hands. She didn't apologize. She didn't explain. She stared at the family portrait on the wall, the one with 3 children and a dead man's smile, and said nothing. The silence was its own confession. Bridget picked up her phone. "I'm calling Scott Kellerman. The estate filing needs to be reopened." Her voice was steady. The teacher in her. The truth teller. I gathered the copies from the table. The originals were with my attorney. These were just paper. But paper was enough. "I didn't come here for money," I said. I looked at Donna when I said it. "I came here so you'd know I exist." She didn't look at me. She wouldn't. Not then. Maybe not ever. I walked out of the living room, down the hallway lined with photographs, past 30 years of a family that had been built on the condition that I not be part of it. I sat in my car in the Whitfields' driveway for a long time. I didn't start the engine. My hands were on the steering wheel. The folder was on the passenger seat. Through the windshield, I could see the house. Big, white, symmetrical. Like a house in a catalog. A house built on a contract that said I wasn't allowed inside. Someone knocked on my window. "Bridget." I rolled it down. "Are you okay?" she asked. I looked at her. I thought about lying. I'd been lying about being okay for 23 years. I was very good at it. "I don't know," I said. It was the most honest thing I'd said to another person in as long as I could remember. She walked around to the passenger side. I moved the folder. She got in. We sat there for 20 minutes without saying anything. The engine was off. The windows were down. I could hear birds somewhere in the oak trees lining the driveway. Then Bridget said, "You have her jawline. Grandma's jawline." I looked at her. "Yours too." She smiled. It was small and tired and real. We drove to a diner on the post road and ordered coffee neither of us drank. Bridget told me about Gerald, the version she knew. The father who coached her soccer team. The man who made pancakes on Sunday mornings. The accountant who double-checked her tax returns every April even after she was grown. "He was a good dad," she said. Then she paused. "To us." I didn't say anything to that. There was nothing to say. He was a good father to 3 children. He was a contract to the 4th. "Do you hate him?" she asked. I thought about it. I thought about the obituary. The 3 children. The business account. The letter from Kellerman with its language about compliance and terms. "I don't know him well enough to hate him," I said. "I know what he did. I know what it cost. But I never sat across from him at a diner and heard his voice. You did. That's the difference." Bridget looked down at her coffee. "That might be the saddest thing anyone's ever said to me. Maybe, but it was true. If you've ever been made to feel like a burden by the people who were supposed to love you, I hope you hear this. Their guilt is not your weight to carry. If this story reminded you of someone who needs to hear that, share it." Here's what happened after. My mother called 4 more times over the next 2 weeks. I didn't answer. Each voicemail was shorter than the last. The first was 5 minutes of crying. The second was 3 minutes of explaining. The third was 1 minute of silence. The fourth was 6 words. Millie, please. I'm your mother. On the 5th attempt, I didn't let it go to voicemail. I picked up. I said one sentence. Don't call again. I have the bank records. All of them. Then I hung up. She hasn't called since. My attorney filed a challenge to the voluntary relinquishment. The argument is undue influence, that the financial payments constituted coercion, not genuine consent. The case is still active. I don't know if we'll win. Winning isn't the point. The point is that the paperwork exists in the court record now. My name, his name, the payments, the terms, the silence they bought. It's all public. Craig hasn't contacted me. I don't expect he will. He saw the bank statements, stood up, and walked out. He chose his mother's version. That's his right. I don't hold it against him. Some people would rather keep the portrait on the wall than look at what's behind it. Paige sent me a card 3 weeks later, handwritten, 5 words. I wish we'd known sooner. It sits on my kitchen counter next to the coffee maker. Donna Whitfield lost control of her family's story. For 31 years she'd maintained it. The faithful wife, the devoted mother, the woman who held everything together through her husband's failures. 3 of her children now know that holding everything together included a monthly payment to keep a child locked in a boarding school 2 hours away. The silence she paid for, Gerald's money, Tammy's compliance, Kellerman's paperwork, is worth nothing now. The receipts are in a court filing. The truth is in her children's eyes. I heard through Bridget that Donna hasn't spoken about me since that Saturday. Not once. She refers to the meeting as that incident when she refers to it at all. She hasn't changed the family portrait on the wall. She hasn't taken Gerald's clothes out of the closet. She is a woman holding on to a version of the past that no longer exists, and everyone around her knows it. $496,800. That's not what I was worth. That's what they paid to avoid me. And when the payments stopped, they came back. Because avoiding me had become the only skill either of them had. Last week I did something I've never done before. I hung a photograph on my wall. My apartment has been bare since I moved in. White walls. No pictures, no frames, no faces. I never had anyone to put up there. The photograph is from the coffee shop in White Plains. Bridget and me, sitting across from each other. She'd taken it on her phone and texted it to me that night. No caption. Just the image. 2 women with the same jawline, same hands flat on the table, same way of looking straight at the camera. I framed it. Small, simple, black frame. It hangs next to my desk. It's not a family portrait. It's not a Christmas card. It's not the kind of picture that goes on a mantle in a house in Scarsdale. It's just 2 people who sat down across from each other in a coffee shop and decided the truth was more important than the story they'd been told. Bridget comes to Hartford sometimes. We go to a Thai place on Asylum Street. She tells me about her students. I tell her about my cases. We don't talk about Donna much. We don't talk about Gerald. We talk about normal things. The dog, the weather. A movie one of us saw. It feels like something I never had. Something I didn't know I was allowed to want. My phone buzzed Sunday morning. Bridget. Brunch? My treat. I texted back. Okay, 1 word. But it was the biggest word I'd ever typed, because it meant I was letting someone in. After 23 years of eating alone, of white walls and empty frames, of building a life that needed no one, I was saying yes to a table set for 2. I spent 23 years believing I was a burden, that I wasn't worth staying for, that somewhere along the way, I'd failed some test I didn't know I was taking, and the punishment was being left alone in a cafeteria with a foil tray and a friendship bracelet no one came to see. But the truth is, they spent $500,000 making sure I wouldn't find out how much I mattered. 2 families, 2 sets of parents, an attorney, a contract, and 23 years of monthly payments. All of it to keep one girl from knowing she existed in a world that had already made room for her. If someone has to pay that much to keep you invisible, you were never the problem. They were.